So how do you become an herbalist? That is the number one question I'm always getting. So I'm excited to dive into it today. Hi beautiful people, I'm back for another video, and today we're going to dive into how to become an herbalist. This is a highly requested video. I have recorded it on other platforms, but I think it's only right that I come to YouTube and create an official video for you guys. Now, how to become an herbalist is a huge question. It's very vast. There are many pathways to becoming an herbalist, and so I hope this video helps you kind of get a little bit clear on the type of herbalist you would like to be, how you would like to show up into the world and offer a healing hand to your community and to the people around you. I have my notes here, so if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes. What is herbalism? To put it very simply, herbalism is the practice, the tradition of using plants as medicine. That is the most simple definition of herbalism. Now, herbalism is also very deeply rooted in science. So we combine science and plants into one to really get to the root cause of your ailment, whether it's something like acute or whether it's a chronic ailment. We're trying to break down what is actually going on in the body so we can use plants to help heal you. So what does an herbalist actually do? An herbalist wears a wide variety of hats. There are so many different things that an herbalist can actually be doing in a day. It depends on the type of herbalist that you are. Mostly all herbalists are creating some sort of a plant formulation and helping to heal their community with it, right? So whether you're creating teas, tinctures, poultices, a wide variety of blends, that is typically what an herbalist would be doing across all the herbal paths. Now, the things that differentiate the day-to-days of an herbalist could be if you have your own apothecary. Well, now you're running a whole business. You're helping to manage people. You're helping to track inventory. You know, you're meeting one-on-one, face-to-face with customers. Clinical herbalists tend to meet one-on-one with clients and create protocols for them. Some herbalists like myself also do a lot of education. So we're always studying, getting up to date on what's happening in the clinical world. So I read tons of clinical trials. Some herbalists tend to focus more on research, which I also love to do. I think that's like more of the science-based aspects that I really appreciate about herbalism. It challenges me to like dive deeper into all of the geeky stuff that I love and learning about how herbs are truly helping folks today. And so yeah, there's so many things that an herbalist can do day to day. So I briefly touched on this in the last one, but I want to dive deeper into the different types of herbalism. There are so many paths that you can become an herbalist within, and I think it's nice to get clear on what path feels most aligned for you. That could be your entry point. I don't think any path is your be-all end-all. I think you can have multiple different paths in your career. I think one herbalist could be many of these things, and I don't think it's strict or rigid. But it's good to kind of differentiate the classes and the different spaces that herbalists live in because they're just different and there's so many options for you to kind of get into herbalism if you're interested. So the first one I really want to dive into is the most accessible, which is family herbalism. Now, family herbalism, to put it very simply, is the practice of using plants to help heal your loved ones, your family. We call them like maybe kitchen herbalists. They have, you know, their herb garden in the back. They're making all their little formulations. They're foraging and sharing it with their people. Now, family herbalists, I don't tend to think maybe sell their herbs, but sometimes they would. Sometimes they branch out and start selling salves and body care. I think family herbalists are a great pathway to enter into herbalism because you can typically just learn the basics through reading a book. So you can hop online, go to the bookstore, grab an herbalism book, and just kind of learn the basics of herbalism and become more of a family herbalist. I don't think that there's a necessity all the time to go take a huge herbalism course if you just want to heal your family and friends. Although I would recommend going to the Herbal Academy and learning, maybe taking their beginner's introductory herbalism course, because it's still very important, especially if you're treating your loved ones, to make sure that you're not poisoning them. Do your due diligence for sure. But family herbalism is a beautiful, supportive pathway and a supportive entry point if you're curious about getting into herbalism. Okay, the next type of herbalist that exists is a community herbalist. Now, community herbalism also tends to intertwine with folk herbalism, and really this is grassroots herbalism. So we learn through stories, through community, through sharing, and the goal of a community herbalist is to really support their people around them, their community. I think community herbalists tend to learn through apprenticeships more than taking a full official course. It's really nice to have an apprenticeship underneath a well-known, well-respected herbalist, and you tend to care about the liberation of your community, and you have that kind of mindset as you operate in your career. I'm from New York, so thinking about the underserved communities around me as a community herbalist, I would show up to farmers markets and community events and offer supportive medicine. Maybe I would have my medicine bee sliding scale. People can pay as they can afford. And I really have like a lot of the community herbalist aspects rooted into my business, Moss Medicine, because we are rooted on accessibility. Being from New York, really not coming from a lot, it's really important for me to make sure that I'm always making things accessible. That's why I'm huge on education. Periodically, from time to time, I do tend to offer things to my community. For example, recently, the LA fires, I offered free tea blends to everybody in LA. And those are things that a community herbalist would do. They care about the betterment of the people around them, and they offer the medicine through the lens of, this is not behind a paywall, right? This is not for me to just hold and to benefit from only, right? It's not through this capitalistic mindset. A community herbalist has a very community mindset. So it's about us, not I. And I love that. So like I said earlier, you can have many different aspects and pick and choose different parts of herbalism to integrate into your practice. And community herbalism, I think, is a beautiful one that we should all care about. Because at the end of the day, like, plants come from the earth. They're not ours to hold. And it's important that you have your mind set on truly being of service to other people. The next type of herbalist is a clinical herbalist. Now, a clinical herbalist kind of varies on what they do day to day, but I would like to start by saying that this path is education heavy. It's a must to have education as a clinical herbalist. Don't think that you can just become a clinical herbalist and start taking on clients without education. You have the potential to end lives. And so this is a path that you tend to take a 2-year program. This is where you will learn the human body. So anatomy and physiology is an absolute must on this pathway. You're learning a lot of chemistry, a lot of biology. So if you don't like science, this might not be the pathway for you. However, if you love science and you really want to help people, one-on-one clients, this is the pathway for you. So what a clinical herbalist does day to day kind of varies on the clinical herbalists themselves. But what it looks like for across the board is typically working with clients, whether you are online, in person, you have your own clinic, which is goals. You're working with your clients in order to get clear on whatever is happening in their bodies so that you can help heal them. So you need to take a health assessment of your client, which typically looks like just getting a background on whatever is going on in their life, in their health. You're looking at blood tests, labs, and you're trying to get a clear understanding of what is happening in this person's body and how you can work in plants to get to the root cause of what's happening. A lot of your clients might be on pharmaceutical meds, so you have to understand how herbs are interacting with the pharmaceutical medicine. It's a huge responsibility to be a clinical herbalist because you're getting people that have some serious chronic ailments that need help. So you have to do your due diligence and get proper education. Now, in America, I want to just be clear that we don't have an officially recognized certification for any type of herbalism, but especially for clinical herbalism. In the UK and in Europe, I know a lot of people have told me that they have formal bachelor's degrees and formal master's degrees. I wish we had that here, but we don't. Herbalism is largely unrecognized as a field in America. And so it is important to make sure that you're learning through programs that really care to educate you. So some programs and some schools, for example, are the Colorado School of Clinical Herbalism. I know there's a clinical herbalist school in Berkeley, California that I was interested in at one point. Arbor Vitae, which is a great clinical herbalism school in New York. There's a bunch of different pathways to getting your clinical education. So after you've completed your clinical herbalism course, your school likely will have you complete clinical hours. And this is just an opportunity for you to work with the community, with people that come in, where you will essentially be a clinical herbalist and you have hours underneath your belt. Once you have enough hours under your belt in America, you're able to register with the American Herbalist Guild. This isn't a licensing body, but this is a professional organization that can give you the license, the name of registered herbalist. This is the only body, professional organizational body in America that we have. So the American Herbalist Guild does have a lot of standards set up in order for you to become a registered herbalist. I will read them off for you. You need to have at least 800 hours of formal herbal education, at least 400 hours of clinical training. You need to have a demonstrated knowledge of botany, human anatomy and physiology, materia medica. You need to learn herbal formulation, safety, ethics, and client care. And so your clinical program typically will provide you with those 800 hours, which is about 2 years of study. However, they typically won't be able to give you the full 400 hours of clinical training. And so the rest of the hours will have to come in your own formal practice. So clinical herbalism is definitely more of a formal education pathway, but I think it really makes for a career, it really solidifies a career. And I think clinical herbalism is a beautiful pathway if you're interested in that. I do have this book here if this is something that you're curious about and you want to learn more about. There's tons of case studies in this book. It's just so thick and full of information. So this is a good book if you are curious about clinical herbalism. So the next type of herbalist is one that works in traditional systems. So we're talking Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, or whatever other traditional system, but those are typically the two biggest ones. The ones that I've previously spoke about are more in the Western herbalism world, and traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, they each have their own types of programs and forms of study. Traditional Chinese medicine, you can learn in an acupuncture program. Sometimes there is a traditional Chinese medicine focused program. You can get your master's degree in acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine, which is really cool. It's a completely different tradition, so they have different ways of diagnosing. So they look at the tongue, they look at the eyes a lot. It's completely different from Western herbalism, which is beautiful because there's so many ways that you can get into this field, and you might dive into Western herbalism and be like, I want something different. And you go into Chinese medicine. Ayurveda is a traditional system of India. So they use things like the doshas and constitutional types to really get clear on the overall health of the person that they're in front of. They have completely different systems from Western and Chinese medicine. I think is amazing to learn Ayurveda going directly to India. If you go directly to India and learn Ayurveda underneath a practitioner, I think you would have more of a level up from learning Ayurveda in America because Ayurveda comes from India. And I think the same thing for Chinese medicine and for whatever other traditional systems that you are curious about. Every single part of the world has had some form of herbal medicine embedded into them. I have lineage from Romania, and Romania has their own form of herbal medicine. You know, a lot of different parts of Europe, each country has their own form of herbal medicine. And my other side of me, my Caribbean side, we have our own way of doing herbal medicine. So I would love to learn more. I've taken a Caribbean herbalism course, but I would love to learn more underneath a Caribbean herbalist from the place that I'm from, which is Trinidad. And so I wouldn't really learn that in America. I would make sure that I go to the place that it's from to learn directly from the land itself. So as you see, there are so many ways to become an herbalist. There are so many different pathways within this herbalism field, which is exciting, yes, but also could be a little bit overwhelming. I would love to be of help to you guys to get clear on what path to go down. The question you should definitely ask yourself to start is, how do I want to show up every day, right? I think this question changes day to day, but truly, what do you desire in your heart? Do you want to show up for your community, for the people around you? Maybe you want to work in schools and show up in farmers markets and community events. Maybe you want to help your family and your friends, and you're more of a grassroots herbalist. You really want to get to the nitty-gritty and really offer a hand in your direct community. That is the community herbalist, family herbalist path. How do you start down that path? Is education, apprenticeships, online courses, books, attending workshops. Workshops are really important. Get clear on some herbalists in your area, reach out to them, ask how you can get involved, ask what schooling they took, and start to kind of emulate a little bit of what they have done to get there so that you can kind of take a little page out of their book. Do I want to have a business one day? Do I want to work one-on-one with clients? Maybe have my own clinic one day? That is the clinical herbalist route. So you have to find people and programs maybe in your area, maybe out of state. Maybe you move out of your state for a little bit and really go to a school. I think in-person education is so important, but maybe you don't have access to that right now. Maybe your life is pretty tied down. Maybe you have kids, maybe you have a family, whatever it is. Maybe you take an online course, but you know that that is a path that you want to go down. Or maybe you feel more inclined to be in the tradition that you're from or down a more traditional pathway. So you want to do Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, whatever it is, you find schools in your area to go down that path. Or maybe you're entirely unclear, which is completely okay. I think it's a lot to think about at once, but you know you want to become an herbalist. You know this is something that you're curious about, that you're interested in. I think it's really valuable to start where you are and just find a simple online program. The Herbal Academy has a few, or maybe you go through a smaller school in your area and you just start to take courses. You take a beginner's herbalism course and you start to get your feet wet a little bit. I created an herbalism course. It's kind of a medicine making beginner's herbalism course back in 2023. I'm gonna link it down below. It has a ton of information. I worked on that course for so long and I put so much of my love into it, and it's helped many people around the world. A lot of you might have found me from my herbalism course. And what I love about my herbalism course is it touches on so many aspects of herbalism. So I think that's a beautiful place to start. If you're just curious and trying to like play with the idea of becoming an herbalist, taking a simple course is great, because maybe you take the course and you just feel like, I don't want to do this. I don't really like this. That's okay. But maybe you take a course and you love it and you want to learn more. So starting where you are is important. And I really want to end this video off by saying that herbalism is an endless learning path. There is so much that you can always learn. You can continually go down different pathways and learn different traditions. And it's really a pathway to endless learning. So if that doesn't sound enticing to you, maybe this isn't the path for you, but I can say for myself that I need to constantly be learning and to be stimulated and curious about different things. And so herbalism is my path because I just love every aspect of it. I think it's important to understand that becoming an herbalist is not just the end, the be all end all, right? Taking one course is not enough. Taking 2 courses is not enough. It's a pathway of endless education. It's a responsibility to always be up to date with the science, with plants, and just understanding that there's so many different species of plants, of healing modalities and medicine around us. And I always like to say that the best herbalists are students. So you don't know everything. You're always constantly remaining in the student position, knowing that there's always more to learn, there's always more to be curious about, and it's a beautiful pathway if you can keep that heart-opening space and understand that we're all working together. Whether if I'm an herbalist and you're an herbalist, like we are on the same team. There is no competition. There's no need to feel like you have to be the best herbalist ever. I think it's really about remaining in the space and the mindset of being a student and being open to everything that the plants have to teach us. With all of this said, I hope this video was immensely helpful for you, for everyone who is curious about this path. If you are already an herbalist, please shoot down below what type of herbalist you are. Maybe it's something I didn't mention. Let me know down below how you became an herbalist and all the things about your path that really got you started. If you've taken my Herbalist course, shoot it down below and let the people know. I'll link everything and all my links to find me if you're curious about more. And I thank you guys for watching this video.